Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today in our first year English compulsory, we will discuss the poem The Hollowmen by T.S. Eliot. Thomas Stearns Eliot, an American-born British poet, essayist, publisher, playwright, literary critic, and an editor, was born on September 26, 1888 and passed away on January 4, 1965. He introduced a new style of poetry. The problems of modern life and modern man were his major themes. He made modern man conscious of his age and the dangers inherent in modern civilization. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1948 for his outstanding pioneer contribution to present day poetry. The Hollow Man, published in 1925, has since become one of the most popular poems in modern history. This poem depicts how a man's soul can inevitably become corrupted, thus leading to a life full of emptiness, devoid of hope and meaning. It expresses spiritual deadness and despair. This poem records the utter hopelessness and destitution of modern life. Modern man has become worthless and hollow as he is not making the best use of his abilities. Main points of the poem: the modern man does not have the ambition to acquire knowledge and wisdom to guide and lead others. He is doing nothing and living like a dead person. He has lost the aim of life, that is to get knowledge about God and universe. Eliot's poem is about a group of scarecrow-like individuals who exist in a state between life and death and suffer from a serious case of moral paralysis. Let us see the first stanza of the poem. We are the hollow men, we are the stuffed men, leaning together, headpiece filled with straw, alas. Hollow means empty. Note the meanings of the words: empty space inside something. Stuffed, filled with something. Leaning, bending. Straw, small pieces of stalks of crops or grass. Let us explain the passage. This poem is narrated by one of the hollow men. As he says, we are the hollow men, mean a group of hollow men are there and they are discussing their own condition. A group of hollow men are leaning together. Leaning mean bending over each other. एक दूसरे पर झुके हुए होना, एक दूसरे पर इन्हिसार करना. Like scarecrows. Scarecrows होता है stuffed artificial man to scare the crows who destroy the corn or destroy some crops. Everything about them is as dry as the Sahara Desert. The hollow men are Eliot's modern, empty, corrupted men. The hollow men are worthless, either puppets or dolls. They try to rest upon each other, and their minds are filled with no wisdom. They are not wise men. They have no will or willpower of their own. So he says, we are the stuffed men. Stuffed here means filled with straw, empty brains filled with grass, which has no emotions, no feelings, no passions. So they are stuffed with straw. It seems the hollow men cannot express themselves. It shows that they are meaningless and the minds of hollow men are empty, filled with meaningless things. Leaning together. The hollow men lean against one another to seek help from one another, but they fail in getting mutual support. कि वो एक दूसरे की मदद हासिल करने की कोशिश करते हैं, लेकिन क्योंकि सभी एक जैसे हैं तो वो म्यूचुअल सपोर्ट हासिल नहीं कर सकते. दे आर अनएबल टू मेक एनी हेल्दी सोसाइटी. टू द पोएट, it is a matter of regret that we are without any moral worth. The hollow men are not happy about their hollow condition, but they can only express their unhappiness in one word, exclamation, alas. Alas refers to sadness, hopelessness. Headpiece filled with straw, alas, means having no wisdom in their heads. It is a hopeless thing. It is a sad thing. There is an underlying tone of desperation. Move to the next lines. Our droid voices, when we whisper together, are quiet and meaningless, as wind in dry grass, or rats over broken glass in our dry cellar. Meanings of the difficult words. Dried voices, voices which cannot be heard. You can say meaningless voices. Whisper, to speak gently, softly, in low voice. Meaningless, useless. Cellar, underground store, underground room. Little room made underground. Explanation of the lines. The hollow men try to speak to each other but convey nothing. They talk without saying anything meaningful. They speak in a low whisper as if they are afraid that someone will hear them. They do not have courage. They do not have the ability to listen and deliver their message to others. The word hollow is used to show the men as being void of emotion, of human characteristics. Eliot also uses stuffed and empty to describe the men. This creates the image that they are filled with straw with no human aspects apart from their shape, stationary and inhuman. Poet is comparing their voices to the wind running through dry grass. As wind passes over the dry grass, it produces a voice which is sound that is meaningless, useless, quite rattling or scraping. Then again he compares their voices to the sounds like the feet of rats running over pieces of broken glass. The wind in dry grass recalls an image where everything is partially dead, partially living, While the rats are known to exist in filthy places, yet they are roaming around a dried cellar. In comparing the men to these creatures in a filthy place and dried glass and over grass represents that the men are utterly meaningless. They are leading meaningless, useless life. These lines use dry or dried three times: dry grass, dry cellar, dried voices. These all words are used here. It emphasizes that the hollow men are dry and do not have blood in their veins. Even they do not have veins. So, this is the explanation of the first stanza, that the modern men are hollow, their voices are dried, their voices are meaningless, and they are leading a useless life. In the next stanza, shape without form, shade without color, paralyzed force, gesture without emotion. Let us see the meanings. Paralyzed force means force which cannot work. Paralyzed means which cannot work, the man whose limbs are workless, यानी मफलूज, काम करने के काबिल ना रहना. Gesture, a movement of part of the body, especially a hand or the head, to express something through gesture. इशारे के ज़रिए कोई बात करना. So what is the message of the poet? The poet explains that the hollow men have shape, but this shape is without form, shade, but without color, force, but the force is paralyzed, and only there are gestures without motion. The hollow men are in a form of non existence. While they have shape, shade, force, and gestures, they have no form or color. They are paralyzed and motionless. They have not developed their thoughts. They have energy, but they do not know how to use this energy in the best possible way. They do not know how to understand and how to communicate, so they are worthless people, according to the poet. These lines refer to the lack of substance and emotion. They are unable to act and they cannot express their emotions and feelings. The result is that the hollow men lose their purpose of life and identity. Here, the word force refers to power to act or move, but when it is said paralyzed force, so the force that cannot move or act. All of these examples are paradoxical because paralyzed and force, both things are opposite to each other. Force is there, but it is not able to work. This situation of them is like death in life. They are lifeless, without direction and hope of salvation. They have force but a paralyzed one, so they cannot get into action. Let us see the next lines. Those who have crossed with direct eyes to death's other kingdom, remember us, if at all, not as lost, violent souls, but only as the hollow men, the stuffed men. Meanings of the difficult words: lost, violent souls mean lost people who do not know about themselves. Death's other kingdom refers to the next word. It may be hell or heaven. The people who had already left this earthly life and gone to the next world remember the hollow men as the worthless, insignificant people lacking worth and moral strength, as the hollow men are stuffed dummies lacking action and activities. The poet is discussing about those people who have already departed from this life, do not know if the hollow men are frustrated or not. They are worthless, but they are not lost ones, to be punished or condemned. The repetition of the words hollow and stuffed enforce the concept of lack and emptiness. Those who have already departed from this life do not know about frustration of hollow men, as they are only puppets made of straw. यानी जो लोग दुनिया से जा चुके हैं वो यहाँ वाले मॉडर्न मैन को अगर देखें तो वो उन्हें हॉलो मैन के तौर पर पहचानेंगे। वो उन्हें फ्रस्ट्रेटेड पीपल नहीं कहेंगे, बल्कि वो कहेंगे कि ये जस्ट पपिट्स हैं, जो कि पुतलियाँ हैं स्ट्रॉ की बनी हुई, जिसमें कोई समझ बूझ और कोई विजडम नहीं है। They are so meaningless that it is no surprise that the direct eyes or death's other kingdom might not remember them. So the modern men are, after all, useless, pathetic souls who had no guts and who now have absolutely nothing. So, this is the message of the poet to the modern man, that they should think about their condition, what type of life, useless and meaningless life they are spending. This is all about the explanation of the poem. Now prepare the question in the exercise and synonyms of the poem. It will help you to solve the paper in a proper manner. Okay, Allah Hafiz.